with people, organizations, and events that create community in and around Richmond Hill. A very culturally diverse community with lots of trees and streams and interesting people. On this podcast, I've asked Scott Thompson, our Ward 2 Councillor, to talk about his upcoming Community Safety and Wellbeing Town Hall. It's an in-person event. It's happening April 30th, 6:30 p.m. at the Community Room at Elgin Barrow Arena. Welcome, Scott.
Always a pleasure, Marge.
No, I'm glad we found the time to do this. I think you've got an interesting event, and I want to know more about it. But Scott, why are you having this event?
Well, to be honest, Marge, what I've come to realize is that many of the issues residents care deeply about, such as things like homelessness, mental health, addiction, public safety, these are often seen as belonging to, say, one group or another, whether it be police services or bylaw or whatever. But the reality is that's not how our society works. These are complex issues that involve multiple partners, where it's the city, the region, police, public health, social services that are all working together behind the scenes on the same issues. The challenge is that residents don't always see that coordination. So when something happens in the community, it can lead to confusion about who's responsible or why certain actions are or are not being taken. So, the event is really about opening that up, bringing those partners into one room, answering real questions from residents, and helping people better understand how these issues are actually being addressed.
Okay. Now, tell us about the event. I understand it will be a moderated panel discussion. Who will be on the panel?
You're correct. We've designed this as a moderated panel discussion with representatives from, as I was talking about earlier, York Regional Police, York Regional Community and Health Services, Fire and Emergency Services, our city bylaw, as well as the mayor. These will all be there. And the goal is to bring together the organizations that are actually involved in responding to these issues and have them speak to how they, work on these issues together. It's not just individual perspectives. It's about showing how coordinated and intertwined our community partners really are in serving the public.
Okay. Now, I've noted that you've set this up as an in-person versus an online event. So are you hoping for better engagement, better conversations?
Well, absolutely. I mean, let's face it, when you have an in-person event, it allows for that direct engagement. But we're also hoping to record this event, and we may possibly live stream it so that more residents can access the discussion. We're still in talks with a videographer, but yes, I feel that in-person provides a better opportunity for engagement. And I should mention that even though we're hosting this as a panel format, we are hoping to be able to allow follow-up questions from the floor at the end of the panel discussion, if time permits.
Now, I noticed that you are asking for questions to be submitted in advance, as part of the registration. So why are you asking for questions in advance instead of just taking them from the floor?
That's a good question. Really, what we're trying to do is encourage residents to submit their questions in advance because these are not simple one-line answers. In many cases, like I said before, multiple organizations are involved, and giving the panel time to review the questions ahead of time allows for more thoughtful, coordinated responses, and it ultimately leads to a much more meaningful discussion. If someone has a question or concern, this is really the opportunity to bring it forward and to hear directly from the people involved. So I can't emphasize enough or strongly encourage residents to register early and submit those questions so we can make sure that they're part of the discussion.
Yeah. I also, from my experiences doing such things, very often, if you write down the question, it's articulated better rather than just going on and on with this big preamble, which everyone in the audience doesn't want to have. So I did want to say that I fully support this idea of asking for written questions. So thank you for doing that.
That's a fair observation. Thank you.
Yeah. So do you have an example that you could share that would warrant a coordinated response?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a good example is homelessness and encampments. I mean, residents might see an encampment and assume that the municipality has bylaws that, and, should have the authority to step in and remove it. But in reality, it's the region that takes the lead on homelessness. And often there are legal, health, and social considerations that have to be addressed, which means not ours, but the region's outreach workers and housing services, public health, and sometimes police are often involved, before any action ever gets taken. So from the outside, it could look like there's nothing happening. But behind the scenes, there's often a lot going on in a coordinated effort. So that's exactly the kind of insight we want to be able to provide through this panel so that we can help residents understand not only what's happening, but why it happens the way it does.
Okay, good example. I think I could do a whole podcast on homelessness. So, okay, I may submit a question for you. Who should attend this event?
Well, anyone who has questions or concerns about what's happening in the community, basically. I mean, whether you're directly affected by an issue or you just want to better understand how things work, this is the opportunity to hear directly from, our various providers, the ones that are, hitting the ground with their boots. I mean, these are the ones that are directly involved. So you want to hear it directly from them.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. Residents, they so often have questions about enforcement. So this panel will clarify the roles and responsibilities.
Okay, we do hear concerns about enforcement, and those are valid questions. What this panel will help clarify is how responsibilities are shared, and that falls under the city, or what falls under the region, and how enforcement decisions are made within that broader context. So it's really less about any one department and more about understanding the system as a whole, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah. Things are more complicated than one sometimes thinks they are. So yeah, no, I think it's great. I think there should be some good discussions. So will residents learn about ways that they can be part of the community safety?
I suspect that the panelists will take the opportunity to speak about the various programs where the community can play a role, such as, Neighborhood Watch or the security camera registry, as a couple of examples. But, the broader goal here is to definitely help residents understand how they can be a part of a safer and more connected community.
Yeah, I like that word, phrase, connected community. That's my goal. Okay. Now, in a very diverse community like Richmond Hill, how do the different perspectives shape expectations around safety and enforcement? And can this event help bridge that understanding?
Yeah, I mean, you're right, Marge. I mean, Richmond Hill is incredibly diverse. And with that comes different experiences and expectations around public services and enforcement. So one of the benefits of an event like this is that it creates a space for open dialogue where residents can ask questions, hear directly from those that are involved, and hopefully build a better shared understanding. So about the best I can answer on that.
Okay. I think it's something that Richmond Hill, the city, and just the residents really have to think about. So it's one of my pet topics. So on a separate note, there has been a recent change in the policy of councillor-led events like this one. Can you talk about that?
Sure. I can talk about it. I mean, the change in policy ultimately spun out of a motion whereby staff were asked to conduct an expense policy review. And, with that was to provide recommendations on how best to improve accountable allocation of public funds. And in the end, it was determined that current legislation actually restricts councillors from becoming accountable for the actual expenditures that they make. So council ultimately decided that removing councillor-led events would be the best solution for mitigating expenditures that could be deemed inappropriate or ineligible.
Okay, well, I'm not certain I like the idea. I like these community-led events, both for getting people together and for the nature of them. So we'll see what happens. And talking about other events, you have your EcoFest exactly 1 month after this other event. It's May 30th. It's your third year, and I've been the other 2 years, and it is a great event. I have lots of questions. We could not do one podcast and do both, so I'll talk to you again about that. And but I encourage people to mark your calendar for May 30th.
Okay, Marge, I look forward to the opportunity to discuss that with you further.
Yeah, no, that's a good event. Lots is happening with that event. Is there anything else that you wanted to add?
Well, I guess in summary, I just want to say that at the end of the day, this panel discussion is really about giving residents a better understanding of how these complex issues are being addressed and giving them a voice in that conversation. So this is why I really encourage anyone who has a question or a concern to register, submit their question, and make sure you're part of the discussion.
Okay. And I should have asked this initially, but you're the Ward 2 councillor. You don't need to live in Ward 2 to attend, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So I'm not in Ward 2. I can come. Okay. So I always end the podcast with the same question for all guests. I've changed the question this year, so it's not the same question you got last time. So if you had a magic wand and could make the world a little better, what is one thing that you would do?
I like your question, Marge. This is good. And yes, if I had a magic wand, I'd accelerate the shift to renewable energy. Mm-hmm. It's not just about the environment. It's about resilience and independence. Renewable energy it's essentially available everywhere, which means communities can generate more of their own power rather than relying on resources concentrated in specific regions. So over time, that kind of shift could reduce the types of global tensions that we're seeing around the world right now, while at the same time building a cleaner, more sustainable future. And to me, that's something worth working toward.
Okay. I like that for your magic wand. Okay. I'm going to ask you again the same question when we do the podcast. So maybe you can think of a different answer, but that you can reiterate that same wish, because that's a very good wish and some good points to make.
It would certainly be a good segue for my Eco Family Fest for sure.
It will be. Okay. Well, again, thank you, Scott, for taking the time to do this podcast.
Always a pleasure, Marge. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. I would appreciate you sharing this podcast. Consider emailing me at Marge, M-A-R-J, at margeandre.com. I would welcome suggestions for podcast guests. Let's stay connected.